Hello, everybody. I am Peter Travers, and this is Popcorn, where we tell you what's happening at the movies. And of course, Belfast, the movie we're going to talk about today with my special guest today, J.Dornan. Jamie, having watched you a couple of times doing interviews about Belfast, is that awards talk isn't your favorite thing. It kind of deserves everything that it's getting. And the one that's coming up now before the Oscars are the Screen Actors Guild Awards. And Belfast is nominated for Best Ensemble, which, Jamie, don't you think is the best kind of award you can get, where you and all your colleagues doing this movie are nominated?
Yeah, particularly. But by the way, Peter, thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it. It does feel like that because it felt like such an ensemble piece from when I first read it. You know, it didn't feel like it was like any one person's movie or anything. You know, it just felt like, essentially we're playing a family. You know, we felt like a very close, united group of people making this movie, and we felt such a galvanized bond between us all, and had so much fun making it that I guess when you get an accolade like that sent your way, it feels pretty good. Yeah,
I'm sure that everybody was having a great time, except you're shooting this during COVID, because everything is during COVID.
Yeah.
And I know I wanted to offer my sympathy that you lost your dad to this horrible virus just a year ago, right?
Yeah, not even. Yeah, March 2021, we lost him. So yeah, 10 months ago, yeah.
And how do you deal with it? How do you just deal with it as not only you as an actor working within it, but as a husband and father of 3 girls?
What do you do except put one foot in front of the other and charge on? I lost my mother when I was 16, and my dad was he was the force behind us, telling us that, as brutal as this is, life doesn't stop. You do have to carry on, and you can't let it be the thing that defines you. My dad always said, tough, but the reality is I have 3 kids under the age of 9, and I'm a busy person, and you just have to get on with life.
What makes this movie so distinct from the Troubles movies that we see, where everything is, because the family does have to go on, doesn't it?
Well, that you hit the nail on the head. Like, that's why we feel, if I could speak for everyone in the north of Ireland, feels.
Sure, do it. Go ahead.
Well, there we go. They won't mind. They're fine. They like me. This is so important to tell that story. To show it through a different lens, to see a normal, hardworking family and how the beginnings of a conflict affected them, and how they didn't ask for it, they didn't go looking for it, they weren't tribal in their thinking, they weren't thinking we're different because we go to this church and you go to that church. All these things that divided that country for so long, and still divide that country, by the way, recognizing and showcasing how a normal family were affected by it is a really important message for us, for people from that part of the world. Because we have seen, as you said, we've seen lots of movies depicting the Troubles. We will see many more movies depicting the Troubles on television, but through a politicized lens or sectarian lens. So for me, it's really vital to be telling the story, and I feel very lucky to be a part of that. Doesn't mean there won't be other stories told in a different way, focusing on different parts of Troubles again. There will be, and I might even be in them, but this is important at this time.
But in the movie we watch a 10-year-old boy that Jude Hill plays in Belfast in 1969. What about you growing up in Belfast?
Yeah,
what was it like for you as a 10-year-old yourself?
I've never shied away from the fact I had a very privileged, much more middle class upbringing than Ken did. That does change things. I'm not, where I lived wasn't like a hot spot for violence, but you cannot be from that part of the world. I was born in 1982, 13 years into a 30-year conflict. You can't be from that part of the world and not be affected by what was going on. You can't even be from that world born post 1998, when the Good Friday Agreement was signed and relative peace has been brought to the land. You can't even be born after then and not be affected by what went on, because you're living in a post-conflict society. A post-conflict society has all kinds of issues.
When you are this child, this 10-year-old version of Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
What is going on in your head as you move into your teenage years about what you're going to do with your life?
And the idea of being an actor and, you know, being in movies and stuff, that just wasn't even, that's not on your radar at all.
What age are you when it does go on your radar?
Honestly, about 30. It was never in the plan. And then I got in the acting age into 22. I did my first ever audition for Marie Antoinette, got it, worked with Sophia Coppola. Still at this stage, I'm not harboring any real ambition to be an actor. I'm just kind of going, oh, isn't this cool? I got to be in a movie. It wasn't until later on, probably wasn't until the fall, really, that I was like, oh no, I actually think I really want to do this properly. And I realized that to do this, you need to be ultra focused and really work hard at it. So I was 29 when I got cast in that. So yeah, but I think it took me, I was a late comer in terms of like.
Because you weren't just modeling. You were somebody that was really successful at it.
Yeah. What did I get?
Called the Golden Torso by the New York Times.
I did. I will never shake it off.
I can't believe I'm talking to the Golden Torso.
I've never even understood fully what it meant, to be honest with you, Peter. But you know, listen, what did it give me? You know, more money than I ever thought I'd make in my 20s, particularly for doing that I didn't find particularly difficult. I also didn't find it rewarding. Outside of the financials, I enjoyed the travel, enjoyed meeting nice people, but the actual act of getting my photograph taken, I still really uncomfortable with. But it was good to me. What I think it did in a positive way for them being an actor is being comfortable around a camera.
It's funny because when I talked to your co-star Katrina Balfe as a model as well, that she did runway work.
Yeah, that's right.
Very different. And I don't know how much she was joking about it, but she could say, Jamie's really good. He knew how to get his picture taken, and she was bad at it, but she knew how to walk.
Yeah, and I was bad.
There's an implication there that you didn't.
No, she's right. I didn't. I've never been a confident walker. You know what? I feel like I've had a bit of a breakthrough recently where I'm like, you know, about to turn 40 and I'm suddenly like, maybe it's not that bad. It all stems, how are insecurities born? I mean, Jesus, sometimes it's one comment, you know, from a long time ago. For me, with my walk, it was much more than one comment. I had a few different things. I remember an early girlfriend, I was 16, and I was meeting her at like break time at school. And she was at one end of a corridor, and the corridor was empty. And I arrived at the other end, and it's like a sort of 40-foot long corridor. And I walked down to her, and she had a big smile on her face. And I said, "What are you smiling at?" And she goes, "I love your walk." Now, listen, she said something positive about my walk, but by saying she loved it was showing that it's an interesting walk. You know, there's something going on in my walk. You know what I mean?
Might be different.
Right. It's different. It stands out for you to comment on it. So that planted the seed. I'd never thought about it before that. Then there's a few more things. Director I worked with asked me, was I doing that as a character thing, or is that the way I walk? On the first series of The Fall, I did a scene where I'm walking down like an alleyway. And the producer, Alan Cubitt, who created the show, came up and said, "Is that character thing you're doing, that walk?" And I said, "No, it's me just trying to walk." And he goes, "Right, okay, well, maybe it's just looking a bit, you're just quite on your tiptoe. Do you want to try longer strides?" I was like, so I did a take. I mean, it exists somewhere, this take. And the B cam footage in The Fall of me doing really long strides through this alleyway. And then there's a couple other things, but you know what? I don't think about it so much now. I don't really care. It's got me this far.
Now, we have to face it that in Belfast, Everlasting Love, your version of it, has become a major thing.
Yeah, people seem to like it. People like it.
Yeah.
It's a nice moment in the film. You know, it comes at a nice moment. It's a bit of a release. It's a brilliant song, first and foremost. So hats off to Love Affair for writing it. It's an incredible piece of music, and a very strange arrangement a song. Like it's a unique tune. Looking
at you and thinking of the movies that I've seen you in, and you seem to throw a wrench into any time it might be a danger of being typecast. When you do the 50 Shades of Grey trilogy, that's another thing, because here's a trilogy that makes over $1 billion.
Yeah.
And they could have said to you after that, let's just have you play Christian Grey at this time, and maybe he should go on a safari, and see what's happening there. Because this is the way Hollywood works. We should have that happening. And yet, the ones that shocked me and surprised me in the best possible way. Number one is The Fall, because that is, by any standard of judgment, a great performance in which you are both charming and terrifying.
Thanks. That's good.
This is an actor who knows what he's doing in terms of not being predictable. When you did Barb and Star and you did that dance, that Edgar's prayer on the beach, climbing trees and leaping in the air, other people hire teams of people to stop them from ever doing that kind of thing. What were you thinking? You make a plan and say, yeah, I'm attracted to this because this is so damn different than any way that the industry would say you should go.
Yeah, probably that. People are made up of many different sides, Peter, as I'm sure you know, all sorts of versions of myself. So I have a really silly side to me, where it's a sort of comedic performative annoyance, let's call it. I've had that since I was a kid. The hardest words ever that I heard when I was a kid was "Jimmy, stop showing off." And I was told that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an element of something like Barb and Star where I'd always wanted to do more comedy. I always thought I'd do more comedy, and then find yourself far away from comedy. But then the chance to do something like that, where I get to express myself and show off a different side of myself. I don't understand the point of being an actor if you don't want to show off lots of different sides to yourself. I love the variety of doing this for a living. I love it. I love being able to enter all these different worlds. And Barb and Star is one of those ones where I'm like, a lot of that is a bit like me. In fact, we were shooting in Cancun for a while, and my family came out and stayed with me for a bit. And my wife came to set one of the days I was shooting Edgar's Prayer. And I'm beached on a jet ski. So I'm on a jet ski, but I'm on sand. Actually didn't make it into the final cut. And there's like wind coming up my hair, and they're throwing bits of seaweed and stuff at me. And I'm like on this jet ski. But my wife came up after I'd been doing this absurdly ridiculous thing and said, do they know that you're just being yourself? And I was like, I think they're starting to work it out. I think they are. Because I'm not like that all the time, but she knows that version of me intimately. So does the world know it? No, of course not. But they might have a better idea of it now. I think I'm many things, and I want to show off those many things.
Were you able to show your daughters any of the Barb and Star scene? Because yep. I would think they would love that.
They watch it all the time, all the time. Our 2-year-old calls it Daddy Naked because I ripped my shirt off at the end. So she says I want to watch Daddy Naked. And then even when we're in the car, she now does this thing where we were driving down to Malibu at the weekend. Then there was a sort of much older than me, bald man cycling along the PCH with his shirt off. Our 2-year-old kept going, Daddy Naked, Daddy Naked. So any sort of a half-dressed man has become Daddy Naked.
Daddy Naked.
Yeah, it's good times.
Well, as long as you don't let her watch any of the 50 Shades yet.
No.
That should come later.
I don't think they'll ever want to watch that, and I don't blame them.
So I'm thrilled to have you, and you don't know that we always end in song. But can I ask you to give me just a piece of a song that comes to you when you think of yourself at 19?
You know what? Damien Rice's album Zero or O, depending on who you talk to, had just come out, and so when I hear Blower's Daughter, I think about that time very much. Does that mean I'm not going to have to sing Blower's Daughter?
Just a little bit, not the whole song. I wouldn't do that to you. I'm just asking you for a piece.
Okay, so good. Can't take my eyes off of you. Can't take my eyes off you. Can't take my eyes off of you. Can't take my eyes off of you. It's very repetitive, but
but the feeling is there.